Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Today inshallah we'll discuss together verse number 30 from Surah Al-Baqarah. Let's start with the recitation of this verse. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون بحمدك نسبح بحمدك. This ha should come from the proper place. Ha. What does this mean? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ. And remember when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I am going to send down on earth, fil ard, khalifa. I am going to place a khalifa, a successive or a successor on earth, a successive human authority on earth. قالوا أتجعل فيها. The angels asked Allah saying, أتجعل فيها. Are you going to send or are you going to place fiha on this earth someone who yufsidu fiha, makes fasad on the earth, makes corruption on earth, ويسفك الدماء, and he is going to shed blood as well. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ, and we نُسَبِّح, we glorify your praise, وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ, and proclaim your holiness. قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied saying that I know what you do not know. So in the previous verses, Allah asking mankind to worship Him alone, and He started to say the reasons that why we human being should worship Allah alone and do not associate any deity with Allah, whether that deity is another human being like Jesus Christ or statues or systems or anything. No. Because Allah is the one who has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then Allah started to mention all these bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, starting from the creation of the earth. So we have discussed about the creation of the earth and the heaven and this whole universe. So Allah is telling us here is that, and remember when after creating the house, furnishing the house, completing all the accessories, it is a celebration, moment of celebration. When person, let's say, a person is preparing for marriage, meaning that he is going to bring a woman first time in a house and they will start this family. So that precedes lots of preparation. He would perhaps build a house or rent a house, he will furnish it, he will bring flowers, he will bring this, all this preparation of this ceremony of inviting a new guest or bringing this the wife to the house, for example. So this comes with preparation, and then the moment of celebration comes when after everything is done, now here is the celebration. So if you followed the flow of information from the previous verse. Here Allah comes and tells us that after I have finished creation of the earth and the heaven, and in 6 days, here is the person for whom all these things was created, the center of the topic, Adam. So here is the creation of Adam. And since the story of Adam was mentioned in previous books before the Quran, the previous scriptures in Torah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is blessing the ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had no exposure or contact with the people of the book. They were an illiterate nation. Allah is favoring them by telling this story in this surah, in the Quran, that you don't have to rely on their version. Here is the version that I am telling you, O Ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's a blessing that we do not need to rely on the versions of the scripture, because many of the details got corrupted from their sources. But here Allah is giving this blessing and this knowledge, this valuable knowledge of what happened at that time. And this is coming straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is telling us the story. Because he is the engineer, he is the creator, and he is telling the story. So if that is the case, we do not need to then rely on guesses and gestures and speculations and of people they have never witnessed that time, and they just come and give us few hypotheses and guesses in terms of our origin of creation. But here Allah comes and tells us the real story, that we have been created from a single man, who is Adam. That was the start of our creation, and not what Darwin or the people of science and technology or the secular mindset who wanted to explain these big topics and questions in the absence of a divine creator. They will just throw guesses without any evidence, and their guesses, after proper scrutiny, would be full of doubts and contradictions and unanswered questions. So the very word wa'idh, Allah is telling us that this doesn't happen in front of you. This is something you never witnessed. This is Allah witnessed and the angels. At that time there were no human beings to witness and record and come and tell you. Allah alone can tell us wa'idh. And this wa'idh is referring to something that happened in a very, very long time ago. Wa'idh. Okay? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ. So with this wa'idh, Allah is really taking us with a time machine to a very, very early times, when our origin, which is Adam, we all came from not an ape or amoeba or a fish. There is an origin. And that moment is a very memorable moment of the history of human being, because that's the origin of our story. So let's take it from the horse's mouth. Let's take it from the engineer himself, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's celebrate this moment through this verse number 30 of Surah Al-Baqarah. And let's tell it and let's feel proud that we human beings are the Khalifa on this earth, as I will explain. This earth is for us and it has a purpose, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. And at the time of our creation of our father Adam, this is what happened as described in this verse number 30. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. So remember, after this wow here, and this and, if we wanted to understand the significance of starting this verse with and, then we just relate the flow as I have just told you. And. So this and comes very naturally in the context of this story that we have been building so far, that there was this house, there is the foundation, the earth, there is the roof, which is the sky, there are all these accessories in the house, all this plumbing and this that you do after you build your structure and the pillar and the roof. You come on and complete the house, and you bring the guest, you bring the owner of the house, which is Adam alayhi salam. Okay, so this wow fits very well, and idh fits also very well because Allah is taking us in a time travel to that ancient time when this thing was happening. So we are a product, or we are created by a conscious design for a noble purpose. Let's all agree on that. Let's alleviate and promote ourselves to that job and that role. Let's not consider ourselves like an ant or a rock or a tree or very insignificant amoeba or thing that was created for no purpose, or he is like any other creature, like a donkey or like any other animal. So let's first get out of that mindset that was promoted by the secular beliefs when they decided to separate from the Christian church. So that story happened between some people who wanted to resort to rational thinking and those who opposed them from among the Catholics. So us as Muslims don't involve in that discussion, because there was wrong in both sides. Let's now tell the story from scratch, a story that doesn't create a schism and a separation between ration and divinity. Rather, it brings them into one platform without any separation, without any conflict. And that story is the story of Adam, which has its in the center all this big answer to all these big questions. What is the earth? What is the heaven? What is the place of nature? And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created Adam for this earth and made this earth and everything. خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا, as was in the previous verse. For us, this whole thing was created for us, but for a condition that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. If we do that, we fulfill the objective of our creation. If we do not do that, we are violating the objective of the creation, and Allah always makes on this earth a group of people who comes to remind mankind that you are derailing. And these are the Muslims. at all the time. So Islam is the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that global Islam was the religion, was the message of Nuh, the message of Ad, message of Musa, message of Isa alayhi salam, and the message of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after him, this ummah was given this name of Islam, which is now becoming more technical term. But the global Islam is the group of mankind who know these big facts, that who is human being and what is this earth, and what is the purpose and the mission of the earth, and what is the meaning of the Khalifa, as is discussed in this verse. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is having this conversation with Malaika, and this noble celebration, this great information about our origin of our story, how we created, and our purpose of the creation, Allah is telling it in a very interesting way through a dialogue. So conveying a knowledge through a dialogue is something that is in the style of the Quran. That is in the style of the Quran. Often we attribute this type of style to, let's say, Socrates, when he is having conversation with his opponent through question and answer, and through this role play and through this drama and through these scenes in an act, a knowledge is conveyed. And that's what Shakespeare also followed, for example, later. But we can see that Quran is also using this way by which this conversation between Allah and the angel, through this we come to know this great story. So always this is a good hint to authors that who write books, that let's not be very dry in our presentation. Conveying knowledge and the pedagogy and the methodology of conveying knowledge has to be done in the best way, and one of the best way is this role play and the dialogue. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. So I think it's better to take a small break here, and inshallah in the next segment we'll continue from this location. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.